For some killers, their crime extends all the way to the courtroom, just like murderer Tyrell Webster had the gall to laugh in the face of his victim's family. In Cincinnati, Ohio, Tyrell Webster stood trial for the murder of Grover Cleveland Watson Jr. after brutally shooting her in an argument. Someone who is this uncontrollable in the face of tension didn't take long to be arrested, and his bond was set at a whopping $1 million. In court, however, Webster really didn't help his case to prove that he wasn't a monster, especially when his victim's sister, standing before him, was blind.
And he was taken from us on my brother's birthday, which hurts very, very much.
While any sane person would have an ounce of heart, Webster simply kept interrupting Watson's sister.
Do that matter?
Yes, it does.
He groaned, ignored questions, and, worst of all, he stood in the stark contrast of Watson's sister's pure benevolence, as she said,
But when I heard the story on the news, the first thing I did after I could close my mouth was just to ask God to forgive you, because you didn't know what you were doing.
He was found guilty for the murder and was given 18 years to life. They say love can drive people to insane lengths, but you'd never think it'd be to the point of murder. But it happened with Joseph Mcenroe and his girlfriend, Mcenroe Anderson. In Carnation, Washington, this criminal couple single-handedly caused a massacre of 6 people. Worst of all, they were Anderson's own family.
911. There's been a murder. There's 3 people dead that I can see right now.
Claiming that it was over money Anderson owed, the couple admitted to the bloodbath they did and were charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder. Now, while the scene of the crime must have been horrific, the trial wasn't any less creepy. In court, Joseph Mcenroe showed extremely unusual and disturbing behavior, one that could be attributed to someone who's clearly mentally ill.
See the emptiness where she should be.
He laughed, apologized, and broke down, grabbing his head and blaming his girlfriend.
What did you do to try to stop this, Joe?
I can't even say now. I tried everything that I could.
Why not just shoot Michelle? My goodness.
She was... For all that, I mean, I don't mean to make her sound like she's like this monstrous person.
Love can be a strong motivator, but we'll bet it isn't enough to literally murder children. With the admission of guilt, the couple rightfully waived their right to trial and received life sentences. We'll call that a breakup, since long-distance relationships don't really work in prison till death literally does them part. There is simply nothing worse than a killer proud of his work, but this is what the victims had to witness in the case of Michael Swanson, who faced an entire courtroom's worth of crying victim families and still had the nerve to laugh in their faces. In Humboldt, Iowa, Swanson murdered 2 gas station clerks, Vicky Bauman Hall and Sheila Myers, all for some cigarettes and money. Both victims were mothers, and their daughters had to suffer the horror of looking into Swanson's eyes in court when he went on trial.
I want to know if you're even sorry. Are you sorry for what you did? My mom was not only completely 100% innocent, but she was also a defenseless woman when you came in with that gun.
I then intentionally, deliberately, and with premeditation shot the clerk, causing her to die. I did this with a specific intent to kill her.
Worst of all, Swanson showed no sign of remorse whatsoever and just sat there quietly as Myers' daughters broke down in court. At one point, he even broke out into laughter while everyone around him was in tears, proving the fact that either he really is a monster or he has a terrible way of revealing that he's nervous and knows what was coming to him.
It's cold-blooded murder. Cold-blooded murder, young man.
He would have been right, though. And he did get what was coming to him in the form of 2 life sentences after a guilty plea.
And there is no place for you in an open, law-abiding society. Prison for the rest of your life is the only alternative, and the court intends to follow through.
If only this story stopped here, though, because while others would take this as an opportunity to repent or lay low in prison, Swanson just had to add even more jail time to his sentencing, as he received another 25 years for attempted murder inside the prison. At one point, you just have to wonder if these murderers are just as dumb as they are heartless. Speaking of dumb, There are few crimes dumber than killing a cop. The killers always find out the hard way. Like Louis Bracamontes, who led a manhunt all across Sacramento, California for the murder of 2 officers, Danny Oliver and Michael Davis, and laughed his way to court. Bracamontes had a history of deportation and drug charges, and instead of laying low and avoiding the authorities like any rational person, instead he decides to carjack several cars, shoot one of the drivers, and murder 2 cops. There was no question regarding Bracamontes' guilty status, yet his court proceedings still lasted 4 years. But if you ever wanted to see nervousness personified, it manifested in Bracamontes' pretend laughing, smirking, and mockery of the charges. In Bracamontes' head, he wanted to look as if he didn't care and tried to give off his big-shot mobster vibe, but he was no Al Capone. His confidence as he laughs to his attorney would make anyone think he has everyone under his thumb, but he was simply too small a fry to have any real power.
Luis Enriquez Monroy Bracamontes did unlawfully take a motor vehicle in the possession of Jose Cruz Salas by means of force and fear. We find the defendant guilty.
Sorry, Louise. Still, his antics were only provocative to everyone involved, and his tough guy act really didn't stick. After several trials, that smile would be wiped off of Bracamontes' face forever, literally, as he surprisingly, yet fairly, received the death penalty recommendation.
Penalty to be imposed upon Luis Enriquez Monroy Bracamontes is death.
Even if Bracamontes laughs at the idea of death, he won't be laughing on the electric chair. But no one showed just how much they were nervous in court, quite like this next killer, Danta Wright, who proved that a laugh and a smile often hide so much more. It all started in Ann Arbor, Michigan, when Danta Wright and 2 others tragically shot and killed 18-year-old Jordan Clee on his way to class for no reason whatsoever other than money. Even though Wright got no money off of Clee, he paid the price dearly when he was arrested and tried for murder. Wright got an advantage many don't, however, in the form of a plea deal, which he took. Now, you think he'd honor that deal? Absolutely not.
I just want to tell y'all, I'll be home soon. R.I.P. Keon, I love my family.
Wright seemed to have gone to the Louis Bracamontes school of being a provocative little man in court, when he kept smiling, rubbing his hands together, laughing, and making fun of everything. Wright's antics were even worse during the victim's family's heartbreaking speech, in which they gut-wrenchingly detailed just how empty life is without Clee.
I've lost my only child, my son, my baby, my friend. More than that, I've lost laughter and love.
For someone like Wright, however, who probably got less than half his percentage of love, he did not care whatsoever about a heartbroken mum standing vulnerable in front of him. Wright got so provocative at some point that it pissed off the judge to infinity, who then said,
But watching you sit there, smile and laugh and shake your head like this was no big deal, I'm very tempted to just say, I'm not going to accept this sentence agreement. We'll go to trial, and if you're convicted of felony murder, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That means you'll die there.
His smiling was in no way meant as disrespectful either to the family, to the victim, or to this court.
We can't blame the judge for wanting to impose an even harsher punishment on Wright, but he had to follow the rules and gave him 23 to 50 years for armed robbery, felony firearm, and second-degree murder. Maybe he'll get another chance to laugh when he's a senior citizen just getting out of prison.